Hello everybody. Assalamu alaikum. How is everybody doing? It's good to see you. First of all, we're going to start out with the roll call. So sound off in the comments, even if you're watching on replay, even if you're not watching live. I want to see you and read you sounding off in the comments. Type present, type here, type your GPS coordinates, but not too quickly, otherwise Kamala Harris might drone strike you. But seriously, sound off in the comments. Let's get the roll call going. I want to know that everybody is present and accounted for. So we got a lot of stuff to discuss. We have a lot of things to talk about. Boy, when don't we, right? When don't we? So with that said, first order of business, rail call. Second order of business, I require you, I implore you to go and sign up on Rockfin. So first of all, shout out to everybody who is watching on Rockfin, because again, I stream simultaneously on YouTube and Rockfin. I upload everything simultaneously, both on YouTube and Rockfin, and it's a great platform, right? And I say this because there's no censorship nonsense, right? I don't have to worry about, oh, can I put, this word in the title? Can I talk about this? No, I just upload my fucking video. I just report on what I want to report, right? And it's not just me. It's Lee Camp, Jimmy Dore, Nico House, Convo Couch, Ron Placone, Graham Elwood, Whitney Webb, Vanessa Beeley, Unauthorized Disclosure. Everybody's there, right? We're all moving there because we get it. Like, this is, it's just not sustainable, what they're doing to us on YouTube, demonetizing everyone left and right. No, we're not tolerating that. So do yourself a favor, do us a favor, go and sign up on Rockfin for free. Don't cost you nothing. But if you do subscribe for $10 a month, you're supporting everyone, right? So whoever's channel you go and watch, remember, there's no ads. They get paid, right? So, and it helps the platform grow and gives us an alternative to YouTube. So I think this is wonderful. And yeah, so there you go. Rockfin.com/RichardMedhurst. Go and subscribe. Do us all a favor. Do yourself and indie media a favor. So with that out of the way, third order of business at bar. I need to get myself like a gavel or something. But no, seriously, we have some things to discuss. So and remember, you got to hit the like button. This is another thing. This is another thing on YouTube. We have to fight the algorithm constantly. Doesn't that suck? By the way, they demonetized, or partially limited monetization, right? Which is basically, we're gonna cut your nuts off and like not really show your video to anyone. No, honestly, look, man, I'm grateful that actually I've achieved some level of success already, so I'm always grateful, subhanAllah. But like, what they did is they came and partially limited the monetization on my video about Palestinian children. Remember how they were being brutalized by the Israelis? Like, and just think of that for a second. Like, the reason they gave me, hold on, let me just pull this up for you so you can see it, right? Because this will drive the point home a bit more clearly. So you just allow me 1 second, if you will. Okay. So I posted about this on Twitter earlier, right? Because it is so ridiculous. So here you go. Oh, so yeah, I need to turn off this music in case we have other issues. Okay, so do you see this? There you go. So if you look over here, the reasoning that they gave me on YouTube, right? So it says limited ads. The reason they said it's violence, it has situations showing hurt, damage, or injury, and that raw footage focused on violent law enforcement, graphic dead bodies, and a non-educational video, edited video gameplay that primarily focuses on graphic violence, domestic violence. Now hold on a second. I'm pretty sure that journalism and reporting counts as education. That's the whole point. You're informing people. That's literally it. That's what it is. Nonetheless, isn't this, look at the irony. Like, if it's too graphic for YouTube, right? If the way that Palestinian children between the ages of 8 and 13 are being manhandled and brutalized by Israeli occupation forces is too graphic to show on YouTube, then why are they doing that to Palestinian children in the first place, right? I mean, it's not like YouTube is the benchmark of what constitutes violence, but this is about their community guidelines, right? It's appalling. Advertisers don't want to pay for that. This is non-family friendly. It's bad. It's graphic. Yeah, I agree. So stop doing that to fucking Palestinian children. Stop being assholes and manhandling them. And by the way, once again, what you saw in that video where they are the army, not the police, the army, which is subsidized by the United States, right? They give them $3 billion a year, $3.8 billion a year to manhandle children. Wow, they must be such a threat. I bet you they had yellow cake and, you know, nuclear weapons hidden in their sneakers or something, right? That's why they had to immediately call the army to get them off the land of illegal settlers and colonialists. So you know, I just think that's hilarious, right? So reporting about it, not allowed, but, you know, doing it, yeah, we don't give a shit, right? And if you say anything bad about Israel, oh, they will come down on you like a ton of bricks. Just, it's hilarious, right? Isn't it hilarious? Anyway. That's how they do, right? They outlaw the existence of Palestinians. They make them feel like, you know, not make them feel like, they literally tell them you can't have a state, and they make them feel like less than human. They treat them like less than human. And then talking about that is also, you know, it's not allowed. And once again, if you look at, I've told you about this before, but I think it was on 2 occasions where they completely deleted the video, not partially limited the monetization. They deleted my video. What were those videos about? I was reporting about police shootings in the United States against unarmed black men. So, you know, once again, it's this brutalization, this dehumanization. They get away with it, and they also get away with censoring reporting about it. And it's just disgusting, right? And they say that it's in the name of, you know, community guidelines. No, it's not. No, it's not. And the worst part, once again, you can see here that this was reviewed by a human being. It says a human reviewer, if you can read that at the top, right? Findings from human review. A human reviewer found that your video is suitable for limited ads. And again, this is not about the money, dude. Like, we're not making bank off of the cents that they give us for these videos. I mean, thank God it's something. I'm not complaining, but I'm just telling you that their reasoning is absurd, right? And it's absurd when they demonetize other channels entirely, which they've done not just to me, right? Because again, ironically, I was covering the annexation plan that they wanted to impose on Palestinians, but also to other channels, right? They just bring up the most absurd reasoning, and sometimes no reasoning, right? And it's not just YouTube. Patreon have done this. It's dangerous. And you saw with PayPal also. Like, it's, I mean, how can you look at this and not see that there's some concerted effort going on here? Are you really going to kid yourself? Don't insult yourself like that. Come on. Just, you know, call it out for what it is. It's censorship, and it's at the very least, if you want to be diplomatic about it, you're making our lives harder, right? And I don't think that's very liberal, very liberally democratic of you, to say the least. Anyway, I just wanted to give you that small update that, you know, before we ease into the worst stuff. Or although I don't know how any of this is. Each thing is just worse than the other. That's what it is. And once again, I would once again repeat that what you saw those bastards doing to those Palestinian children, as heartbreaking as it is, it's like when you read about what they did in Operation Castlead, right? Or Protective Edge when they invaded Gaza. Again, this was in the West Bank, but I'm just giving you an example. You know, when they launched these full-scale bombings, and they target residential buildings, 65% casualties, civilians dying in or near their homes. I mean, this is a massacre. It's a genocide. And so, you know, that pales in comparison, and nonetheless, it is so heartbreaking and indicative of where U.S. taxpayer money goes, right? I mean, literally, it goes to the army. It goes to them for military aid, for their security, right? Even Bernie Sanders, he'll come and say, oh, Israel's security comes first. And no, this is Israel's security. Children, they have to send a squad. They have to send a goddamn armed squad from the army to arrest children. What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? God, it's horrific. And by the way, this is not unique. I've seen British troops doing this to Iraqi children, beating the shit out of them on video. I've seen American troops doing this also. It's horrific, right? This is what occupation does. You know, as noble as they want to pretend that they are, as noble as they try to, as much as they try to sell you war, their occupation, and again, there's nothing noble about it to begin with, at all. And I'm talking here about the Israeli occupation, about the American and British occupations. There's nothing noble to begin with. It's all based on racism and lies and making money for a military-industrial complex. But nonetheless, it always leads to shit like this, right? There's no occupation that does not lead to more suffering. Yeah, and they knew this, and they did it anyway because it's all about making money. And I'm talking about specifically in the case of Iraq and Afghanistan. And here in the case of Palestine, I mean, those kids being manhandled, those were literally illegal fucking settlers who called not the cops, the army, to come and get rid of a bunch of kids, right? Like that is the apogee, that is the quintessential get off my lawn, but like with extreme fucking racism and colonial settler nonsense. So I mean, it's just disgusting. And the fact that they I made a tiny video, like it wasn't even like how long was the video where you see them being arrested? One video, 1 minute out of the entire video, which is like 10 minutes long or 13 minutes long. I can't remember, but it's like 10% of the video. And no, you shut your mouth. Limited ads. And I wish it was just about the money. It's not. It's that they start showing the video to less people, and this is, of course, on a larger scale if they go and demonetize your channel. So yeah, I think that's just it's absurd. Like, yeah. Anyway, if you'll allow me just 1 second over here before we get into our next before we get into our first segment, right? I was not planning on talking about that, but here we are. I mean, about the YouTube decision. And by the way, this is not unique. Hold on. I need to explain something. This is not unique, by the way. Every single day, I'm telling you, every day when I upload videos, they are automatically either completely or partially demonetized. All of them. And I have to request a review and I have to wait. I have to wait hours and hours, sometimes a day. Sometimes it's fast, sometimes not. But like it's just like, screw you. No, it's partial or limited ads or complete demonetization from the get-go. And then maybe a robot or a human being will decide that you can have a little more a cash from this video, and that most important of all, people actually get to see it and it will be recommended, hopefully, right? So again, this is why it's so important to actually share these videos, to put them in people's faces, like, yo, go look at this because this is fucked up. Because YouTube is not going to recommend this to people, right? Unfortunately. But nonetheless, I'm not complaining. I've been extremely fortunate and successful already. I have no right to complain. What angers me is that these are important issues that are not being, they're not getting out there. People are not able to find out about them, and they need to. That's what bothers me, right? That's what annoys me the most. It's not about me. And you don't need to look any further than other independent media to see the censorship, right? Other channels that have just been demonetized, in which we talked about in the last couple of weeks. It's Anyway, excuse me, just 1 second. I'm having a spot of trouble there, boy. I have to deal with something. Give me 1 second just to take care of this. I think that should be okay. And you guys have been extremely generous. I'm seeing that you've already sent some super chats. So I'll do the segments and then try to get to them afterwards, if that's all right. And I thank you so much for your support. Again, thank you for not just donating, but actually liking the videos and doing all sorts of things to spread the word, commenting, boosting the fighting the algorithm. It helps a lot. So thank you for that. Right, so okay. Hold on, I need a sip of my drink. I don't want to give them any free advertisements. So hold on a second. All right. Let's get into it. Right. So you had another mass shooting in the United States, and it's actually the second one in the same week. The first one was in Atlanta, and this one was in Colorado, in Boulder, Colorado. So if you recall, this was just a few days ago at a spa in Atlanta, right? And there were about 8 victims there, which is, I mean, it's, even if it's just one victim, it's horrific. But you look at these the numbers of people being killed. It's heartbreaking. It really is. And these are all of the people who were killed. And yesterday you had another one take place in Boulder, Colorado, and you can see here the mass shooting suspect. This is from Fox, was already known to the FBI, right? And this one about Atlanta. This one's from the BBC. So I just want to go through this because I have a lot of points to make here, and so let me try and break this down as much as we can. So this guy, he went into a grocery store and he killed 10 people, and I want to focus on the reaction from the media, from pundits, from popular figures, let's say, how they try to exploit these mass shootings. And this is nothing new. I mean, if you're my age, you grew up with television, late 90s, early 2000s. I mean, none of this is new, how the media exploit this. It's an industry, honestly. And so, I just want to show you it's unbelievable. So first of all, people immediately assumed that this was like a white supremacist shooting, right? They immediately thought, okay, this guy, he was arrested alive, and arguably it is true that, if you're not white, you have a much higher risk of being, not being arrested alive. You will be shot on sight. I've never heard of a black shooting suspect being taken to, get fast food on the way to the police station after murdering people, right? And so, we've covered a lot of police shootings on this channel, and that's something that I take very seriously. I think it's horrific. But so I understand that point, but they immediately assume that just based off of that, oh, it's a white guy, right? And let me just show you some examples of this. I think this is also Fox who put together these tweets, but this guy, for example, I mean, CJ Verleman. So this idiot, he's like, he's a huge proponent of the war on Syria. So I know his name from before, but nonetheless, look at what he said about yesterday. Okay, he says the suspect gunman is a white guy, and then he says cue mental issues and bad day and parking dispute or anything else other than what he most likely is, a white domestic terrorist. So that's what he said about that. And then you had Amy Siskin saying here the shooter was taken into custody. Certainly a white man. Again, if he were black or brown, he would be dead. And again, I mean, that's not, that's not, I understand where she's coming from with that, but it's not true that he was white. And we'll get to that in a second. And so, you have all these people tweeting here that, oh, it's a white guy. It's 100% a white guy, right? Just to show you, for example, over here, right, Mina Harris. So she says, I deleted a previous tweet about the suspect in the Boulder shooting. I made an assumption based on his being taken into custody alive and the fact that the majority of mass shootings in the U.S. are carried out by white men. And I think, yeah, you'll forgive me. I'm trying to find the original tweet where she put it. I don't know where it is, but she deleted it. And so, her point, you have all these people immediately jumping to the conclusion, oh, he's a white guy. Okay. And then it turns out he's not. He's actually Syrian, right? So this guy, his family came to the U.S. when he was 2 or he was a child, basically. He's a toddler. They came to the U.S. in 2002, I think, and he's 21 now. So, I mean, I don't know what age exactly he was, but or what the specific year is. The district attorney says one thing, CNN says another. I don't know, but the point is that he's not a refugee like people are claiming, and even if he were, I'll get to that in a second. I don't see what's wrong with being a refugee, but you have people saying things like this. So now we go to the response from the right wingers. Yes. Again, liberals are also right wingers, even though they don't want to tell you that. They're also right wingers. They would be right wing in any European country, but or any anywhere else in the world. But anyway, in this, in the sense of the American mainstream political spectrum, let's look at what the right-winger said. So you have people saying, oh, a Syrian immigrant comes to the United States. We provide him with citizenship. Years later, he shoots up a grocery store and kills 10 Americans. Does that sound like a gun control issue? Now, I'm a bit confused by her wording here, because if the guy is an immigrant and you provided him with citizenship, so he became a citizen, right? How is he shooting like Americans? I mean, why are you saying it like as if he's not American? You just said that he's an immigrant and he is a citizen. Is he not also an American? Are immigrants not Americans to you? You are all immigrants, unless you're a native, which by judging by her profile picture, she doesn't look like one. Every single person who is not a native in the United States is de facto an immigrant. So I don't get where the line is drawn here. But nonetheless, you see as weird language, like how she doesn't consider American, like immigrants to be real Americans. Like, oh no, he came here. We gave him the luxury of citizenship. He's just an immigrant. Like, we are real Americans. What does that mean? Anyway, it's not about this guy in particular, but they're trying to. It's weird, right? The way she says it. I understand what she's saying. Like, okay, if you're moving to you're a guest in a country, perhaps, but you just said that he's a citizen. So he should be equal to you, according to your constitution, right? He's equal to you. What's that about? So another thing, you have statements like this, right? Saying, we allowed him refuge in our country and he repaid us by murdering our own people. No, I don't know why people are automatically assuming that he's a refugee. He's not a refugee, right? This guy he immigrated there with his family when he was a kid. So, I mean, if he's grown up in the United States, he's as American as you. I don't see where he comes from, what that has to do with his actions, which are, deplorable and messed up and inexcusable, right? They're completely inexcusable. So what does that have to do with where he comes from? I'm confused by this. And also, I find this so hilarious how they talk about we gave him refuge. Okay, let's backtrack a second. What were you giving him refuge from? The war in Syria? Well, that's a war started by the United States. That's a war started by the United Kingdom. That's a war started by Qatar, by Saudi Arabia, by Turkey, by Israel. They have all participated in this war. So, I'm pretty sure the vast majority of Syrians would rather you not start a war in their country and just let them live in peace, right? But nonetheless, he's not a refugee. So even then, this has nothing to do with that. But just look at the mentality of how they think of these things, right? It's really telling. And again, by the way, this is from the Washington Post, for example. Okay, they say that, he was born in Syria and came to the U.S. as a toddler in 2002. There you were. He studied computer science and he had an interest in wrestling and martial arts. And so according to Rita Katz, she's the executive director of SITE, and they monitor online extremist activity. And she says that we still don't know what his motive was or if he had one at all. But what I can say is that based on what I've seen of his social media presence, he didn't even remotely suggest having radical Islamist leanings or really radical leanings of any kind. And so the point that I'm trying to make here is not about, about him specifically. It's just in general how you can see here, like it's just a textbook case of how both sides, liberals and right-wingers, again, they're all the goddamn same, but they're immediately jumping off of, on this tragedy and trying to capitalize off of it to push a certain narrative, right? 1 second he's a white supremacist, and then the next second, oh no, he's a refugee, and he should be fucking grateful, right? He should be fucking grateful. Goddamn immigrant. Like, what is wrong with you people? Like, you could just say that it's what he did is fucked up. That's it. I don't care where you're from. You should not be shooting up a fucking store and killing people. End of story. Like, it's that simple. Just leave it at that. But no, they have to jump on it and capitalize off it, for clout and for fucking clicks and, try to make this political. And I think that's messed up, man. I think that's messed up. And, it's not the first time this happens in the United States, right? If anything, you have a much deeper problem than that, right? If anything, at this point, after all that's happened, you should be aware that there's something messed up going on. So this is my main point here, that you have people that capitalize off of this to immediately push a political agenda, which I think is it's nasty. And by the way, one thing that I would say, because a lot of people are saying that, again, I don't even know if this is true, because it's just according to some reports. But, Ben Shapiro, for example, look what he says. He says that, he's a mentally ill Syrian immigrant. And if you go and you read a couple of reports on CNN or Washington Post, they say things like, give me a second over here. So, yeah, they say, oh, look, he didn't have a lot of friends. And, the guy, he had paranoia and things like that. And they thought that, look over here, he says, one of Alyssa's brothers told the Daily Beast in a phone interview that his brother was mentally ill and paranoid, adding that in high school, he would talk about being chased or that someone was looking after him. He added that his brother was bullied in high school. So, look, okay, if that's coming from his brother, obviously his brother probably knows him better than anyone. Still, I don't know if that qualifies as a medical diagnosis. I think obviously if you're committing acts like that, yes, there's probably something to do with that. But nonetheless, my point here, again, it's not about him. I'm not trying to defend his actions. I just want to take a break here for 1 second, just to remind people not to stigmatize mental illness, because, like things like saying, oh, this mentally ill motherfucker, like, no, tons of people suffer from mental illness. Someone in your family could be suffering from mental illness, your coworker, it varies by degree. You have, just to take the case of depression, for example, millions of people have depression, right? There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing bad about that. So you can condemn someone's actions without, generalizing and just saying that everyone who's mentally ill is a mass murderer. That's just, no, we don't need that. Mental illness is stigmatized enough in society without adding to it, right? Men, women, young people, old people, white people, black people, everyone, you find mental illness everywhere. There's nothing shameful about that, right? And so we should try to destigmatize that, if anything. I'm saying that in general, right? So nothing to do with him. I'm just saying in general, because the way that people are talking about it, it's not good. It's not productive, So anyway, going back to what happened in Colorado and Boulder. In Colorado, you had the Columbine shooting, right? So again, one of you asked me specifically to talk about Columbine, and I don't know if they want me to say their name. I hope they're watching right now. I told them I'd be going live, and I wanted to. They asked me specifically to talk about this, and give me a second to pull up their message. So, say I was born and raised in Denver, Colorado, and a couple of days ago there was another mass shooting in Boulder, right? And people I went to high school with were inside the grocery store where the shooting happened. I also live 10 minutes from Columbine High School. I just feel like all the thoughts and prayers rhetoric does nothing. And it sucks that in 20 plus years, mass shooting after mass shooting, policymakers don't do shit. And this is by no means intended to take away from the horrible things people around the world suffer from, including especially due to imperialism. I know. And they asked me specifically to mention Kendrick Castillo, who was killed in the STEM shooting in Colorado. He was killed a couple of years ago, and he was a few younger than me, but he went to my K-8, and I know his family. They always used him as a hero figure, which he was, but used that to inspire people to do the same instead of making policy. Yeah, so I absolutely get where you're coming from, and that's really horrifying to see your hometown ravaged like that by these tragedies. It's heartbreaking, right? And I think, again, I don't know if they want me to say their name or not, but thank you for sharing that with me. And the thing that I would add is, like, I absolutely agree with you. And I think it's a multifaceted issue, right? I think that regardless what your position is, because in the U.S. you have people who are for gun control, people who are against, people who are somewhere in the middle, like they want more background checks, but not a complete elimination of weapons, like in the UK, for example. So my point is, regardless where you stand, policymakers should have done something, right? I think everyone can agree on that. Like, this is an issue, and something should be done about it. You can't just leave it as they have done. And Speaking of Columbine, have you guys actually seen? Bowling for Columbine? Right, I watched it again this morning. They showed it to us, I think, in high school once, and it's absolutely crazy the things they try to blame it on. And again, it's just like you're seeing now, right? You have one group trying to say, oh, it's white supremacists, and then the guy turns out to be Syrian, and it's like, oh no, look, it's the Muzzies and the immigrants. And they should be fucking grateful like, to breathe the same air as us, which reminds me a lot of what you see in Europe, right? Unfortunately, obviously not all Europeans, but a lot, unfortunately. They also have this mentality about refugees, right? Which again, they call migrants. No, they're refugees. They're fleeing war. And, they have this like stuck up nose mentality. Like, oh, refugees should be grateful to breathe the same air as us. But once again, this guy's not a refugee. I'm just angry that people are perpetuating this mentality that there's like literally that they are above anyone who immigrates to the country as if they are not themselves immigrants. Like you're all fucking immigrants, whether you like it or not. That's how the US was founded. So anyway, going back to your point about Colorado, I was watching Bowling for Columbine again. And I mean, man, look, man, there are some things that Michael Moore said that I think are absolutely fucking dumb on Twitter. Like what was he doing again about Biden a few months ago? I think he was saying like you should go vote for Biden or something. I don't know what it was, but that was horrific to me. And so anyway, but just let's focus on the movie here and the documentary. And it's extremely thought provoking because he makes the case that you go to countries like Canada, they have tons of guns, right? They also have tons of guns, but they're not killing each other the same way. And, he also makes the point that this argument that, the United States has a bloody history. Yeah, it does. But there are other countries like the United Kingdom that have bloody histories, probably even more than the U.S., some could argue. Look at France and Algeria, what they did, right? 1.5 million killed in the independence war in the 50s, 60s. So you look at also what Germany did. Do I need to say anymore? I mean, what the Nazis did. But, you don't have these same kind of atrocities taking place as regularly. So what is it? What is going on here? And honestly, man, I think Marilyn Manson Marilyn Manson, he made the best point in that whole movie because there is a culture of fear that is being, people are being brainwashed with. There's a culture of fear that, there's no love thy neighbor. It's lock your fucking doors and be wary of thy neighbor and buy as many guns as you can. And I think this aspect of conflict resolution, it's a cultural issue, right? It is a cultural issue. I would say. And again, I'm not saying everyone is like that. Obviously, we're not trying to generalize here, but there is a pattern. There's something going on, and this is the fault of the media. And it really is because these people make money off of fear. And again, as you're seeing, they don't care about the facts. They just care about, just raising. I always think of these threat levels. Do you remember the threat levels after 9/11? They had like this color-coded shit in the UK as well. They had it too. Like, the threat level has been raised to 2. The threat level is raised to 5. Like, attack is imminent. They thrive off of this. They make money off of fear. And I think that is just not fucking healthy, man. That is not healthy. It's just a recipe for disaster. I really think that. And, I don't know where I stand on this somewhere. I don't know, man. It's complicated for me because, when I was a kid, I had a Lee Enfield, so that's a 303, but not the regular one. So it was a Mark V, which is a jungle carabine. It doesn't look as nice as the regular one, right? So I grew up around some guns, but if you told me that tomorrow morning, like, okay, well, no more guns because children are being fucking killed, well, I tell you, fine, then take the shit away. I don't care. But at the same time, I understand people who, there are farmers. People want to hunt. There's nothing wrong with that, right? I mean, I don't think I could kill a deer or something. I don't have the heart for that. But, I'm just saying that there's nothing wrong with that. No one is saying like, oh, you can't be a farmer or you can't go hunting and things like that. That's also too extreme. I don't agree with that. I think that's stupid. If you look at the UK, for example, the cops in the UK do not have guns. I think that's great. I do not think police should have guns. I do not. That's not your job to walk around and intimidate people with a fucking pistol. I don't care how well intentioned you are. You're going to intimidate people, and then you're going to end up in a scenario where you have people being murdered. And even in the UK, you still had police shooting people like, you remember the other day we were talking about Cressida Dick, who's heading the Met, and she was actually in charge of this shooting in 2005, right? In the Tube, when they shot the Brazilian man, Charles Menendez, if I'm saying his name correctly. So my point is that you do have police still killing others, and then you had the G20 protests? I can't remember at the time, man. My memory is fading. Again, this is from when I was a kid, where the police killed someone with a baton. And you look at George Floyd, that guy was strangled to death. There was no gun involved in that. But then you look at Rashard Brooks, who's running away, they shot him in the back, or Jacob Blake, they shot him in the back as well. So you should not be giving people in a position of authority like that firearms. They don't need that. They have taser, pepper spray. They don't need guns. This is bullshit. And that's where I stand on it, I think. But then you have people who say, well, in the United States, civilians have guns, so you got to balance it out. Yeah, but this is not healthy, dude. I don't know. I don't know. I think the U.S. is it has its it's a unique case. I don't think that you're going to fix this in any scenario. But one thing, let's be clear. One thing, I think the first thing that people should start with is boycotting mainstream media. Mainstream media is cancer. It's toxic. It's literally poison for your mind. I mean, just look at the way that they start their shows. Like, they put on this stress music. If you watch the BBC, or Sky News, they'd have this beat going on and this pulse. It's like, wake up, citizens, for your daily brainwashing. Fuck off. So, the news itself is bad enough. You don't need to fucking stress people out with that. They make money off of people suffering, right? It's disgusting. And so I think when they stoke the coals of fear, of racism, and they try to convince you that, everyone is out to get you, and you should hate every person and be wary of them. And yeah, of course, you're going to foster a culture of violence when you don't actually have one in the first place. Perhaps maybe people could just get along normally, like in other countries. And I think that's the first issue. I think the mainstream media is a fucking cancer, and I think the fact that they rush to capitalize off of this thing, it makes everything worse, right? I think everyone can agree on that. And you should definitely not be capitalizing off of this shit to begin with at all, but especially not with, you don't even know what you're talking about. Like, 1 second, this guy's a white supremacist, and oh no, he's a regular old bad Arab immigrant. What the fuck? Like, you all sound racist as fuck and ignorant, and you're not addressing the root cause here, right? You're not addressing the root cause at all. So again, I think my point of view is perhaps a bit particular. Again, I don't, I grew up, with guns in the household, but it's not. But I grew up in Europe. I grew up in Switzerland, Austria. Okay, I grew up in Pakistan as well. I've lived in Syria. I've lived in UK. So I've grown up in countries where you walk out the door and you're not expecting a mass shooting to happen. Although, unfortunately, when I was a kid, when I was living in Pakistan, this was just after the Cold War had finished, and so you had Al Qaeda starting up, and that bombing happened at the Egyptian embassy next to my school. So that was definitely a violent environment. But again, just trace it back to the United States funding the Mujahideen. Who paid for that? It's the fucking CIA. So anyway, I that's the thing that I wanted to say. But I blame the media a lot. And as one of you pointed out, again, I don't know if I should say their name, who wrote me this kind message, but it is shocking that policymakers have done nothing, right? It's like, in the United States, you can advertise drugs between commercial breaks. You can't do that in other countries. They want to make money for Big Pharma. And then it cuts from commercial. It goes back to the news, and it's just horror stories, right? And I wish, can we be honest with each other here? I wish they would cover the right ones. If you were going to show me the atrocities that the war crimes that are happening in Iraq, at least that's something that is supposed to bring a fucking war to a halt, Like, you're challenging the government with that. But this is not their aim. When they're covering mass shootings, they're just trying to make money off of it and get ratings up and, stoke, provoke fear. And that's disgusting. That's dirty. So I don't think that's okay. And it's nothing new. I'm sure most of you know this. We've seen this. And it's so absurd now with this. They can't even make up their minds about the identity of the shooter. How about let's just agree that's wrong? Like, it's wrong. I don't really care where the guy is from. And, one thing I was thinking about, they might use this to kind of, provoke anti-Arab or anti-Syrian sentiment, right? Which would not surprise me. And unfortunately, a lot of people fall for that too, By the way, speaking of Marilyn Manson, this article over here that he wrote in Rolling Stone after Columbine, when is this from again? There you go, 1999, June 24th. This is a great article. This is an excellent piece. This is an excellent piece. And he touches on some of the points in Michael Moore's documentary, but look at what he says here. I'm going to zoom in for you so you can read that. This is Marilyn Manson, Rolling Stone. He says, "We applaud the creation of a bomb whose sole purpose is to destroy all mankind. And we grew up watching our president's brains splattered all over Texas. Times have not become more violent. They have just become more televised. Does anyone think the Civil War was the least bit civil? If television had existed, you could be sure they would have been there to cover it or maybe even participate in it, like their violent car chase of Princess Diana. Disgusting vultures looking for corpses, exploiting fucking filming, and serving it up for our hungry appetites in a gluttonous display of endless human stupidity." And this line over here, especially, they would have been there to cover it or maybe even participate in it. Yo, they were literally doing that. Brian Williams was in a fucking helicopter during the Iraq War, right? And he lied about being shot at to look like, some kind of hero. And yeah, like they are participating in it. They are participating in it by selling it to you, right? Shep Smith, look, we're spreading the love. Yeah, they're definitely participating in it. They're not covering it. That you're selling a fucking war. And this is disgusting. I mean, he makes a good point, doesn't he? But again, just to be clear, I don't buy this argument. Also, I like, oh, look, humans are just inherently violent. So, let's just leave violence alone and let it continue. No, I don't think that's what he's saying either. But let's just be clear on that. But his point is about the media, how they're disgusting, they're corrupted, and they are profiting off of this and just brainwashing people with fear all the time. He's right. He's absolutely right. And they do it in every aspect, not just with mass shootings. It's disgusting. And, one point that he made also was about Kosovo. I think the day of the Columbine massacre, you had the U.S., they dropped more bombs. They beat their record. They dropped more bombs than ever before on Kosovo that day. And, Marilyn Manson, he makes an excellent point. I would show you all this, by the way, but I get a copyright strike. And Marilyn Manson makes an excellent point. He says, is it me who, turned people violent? My music did that? Rock and roll did that? Or was it perhaps the president? Who has more influence? Who has more clout? The president or Marilyn Manson? And then he says, I'd like to think me, but I'm pretty sure it's the president. And it's true, right? It's actually shocking. Like, some forms of violence are acceptable, sanctions, which murder people, that's fine. Bombing people, that's fine. And, mass shootings, it's horrible. And it is horrible. We're not disagreeing on that. But like they cover that only to make money off of it, right? They're not even covering it properly. They even say the names of the shooters and they celebrate them. And it kind of, it inspires a continuation of that. It's horrible. It's really messed up. These people are fucking vultures, like you said. I agree with that. And again, just to be extremely clear, we're not, defending or trying to justify or, do any of that. The actions of these shooters, they're fucking terrorists. I mean, at the end of the day, they're inflicting terror. They're murdering people. They're taking innocent lives. It's inexcusable. It's inexcusable. My point here, what I want to point at is this capitalizing off of it, capitalizing off of tragedies, trying to milk it and brainwash people into, a further, an even more violent society. This is toxic. This is cancerous. This is despicable behavior. And they thrive off of this. This is how they make their money. So here's another dumb one that I saw, by the way. A leftist murdered 10 people yesterday. Ban leftists. No, it's nothing to do with that. I'm pretty sure God, they're just so dumb on both sides, right? Although it's the same side in the end. And, you know, just to finish, Michael Moore, he made, look at this tweet that he made. He said, the life of Ahmed al-Alawi al-Isa, again, I'm not even sure if I'm Syrian and I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, says that, shows that people can come from all over the world and truly assimilate into our beloved American culture. And he put up a picture of the Statue of Liberty. And, you know, it's sarcasm. I think it's obviously a very dark, some might say it's a very distasteful tweet, and there are indeed enough comments like that in these comment section. But he does make a point, and of course he did a film about this, so you know it's in reference to that, and yeah, it's a very dark irony. Although again, I like to think that most people are not violent. I believe that. I think that's true. I do not think that people are inherently racist or violent or assholes. I think there's a lot of institutional factors involved, the media as well, and you know they add fuel to the fire. They're a recipe for disaster, and I blame them a lot for it. And just one last point I would like to make. You know how you see, because people are saying, oh, it's white supremacy, and you know you have a domestic terrorism issue with white supremacy. I mean, you're about 300 fucking years late with that one, yeah. You're about 300 years late. I think the natives who were, you know, basically wiped out have a few words to say about that. This is not a new problem. You're 300 years late. But nonetheless, I want to show you their hypocrisy, because a lot of the people who are saying this, they're usually Democrats, many of them, you know, in the squad. And they say, oh, the GOP, they're inherently racist and you know, white supremacists. Yeah, what about you? I mean, you just helped elect Joe Biden, who pushed for the Iraq War, who helped the Iraq War take place. He orchestrated it. He's never met a bombing that he didn't like. Although to his credit, I think he voted against 91. I'm not sure. But like, you know, the guy's a fucking warmonger. Are you kidding me? He just bombed my country last month. What are you talking about? The guy is stealing our oil. The US troops now have control of 90% of Syria's crude oil. Those are white dudes with fucking guns stealing resources from people in Syria, right? Not to mention Iraq. Don't even get me started on Iraq. So, you know, the British army, the American army, and I'm not saying everyone who joins up, because there are economic factors. A lot of people are driven by, you know, poverty, by lack of opportunity into the military. They're scammed into it. So I'm not saying everyone is that, but the institution, especially the politicians who are you know, using that tool, the army should be for defense. It's not being used for defense. It's being used for offense. Right? They call it the Defense Department. It's not. It's the Offense Department. And they're using a tool that should be meant for defense to go and plunder other countries and occupy them. And the point that I make is that when you go and do that, when you look at how the British treated the Indians, and now take your pick, because the British controlled a quarter of the planet's landmass and population just 100 years ago, right? You have to dehumanize people when you're a colonizer. And that's what they did. They dehumanized the people they're colonizing. There is, you know, this is a reality. You can't deny that. And, you know, that's a vehicle for white supremacy at the end of the day. It's a vehicle for white supremacy. And the French did it too, and the Belgians. And you know, you had people, you know, Leopold too, they had this conference in Berlin, and they just partition Africa. Like, yeah, you'll take this and I'll take that. And then, you know, Sykes-Picot, the French and British, they just partition the Middle East. Yes, there's an issue here. There's a white supremacist issue, right? You have people who think that they're morally, racially superior, and that they get to make decisions for others and decide their fate and draw up their borders and displace them and kill them and subjugate them. Right? And Chris Hedges also made that point on my show, right? It's the apogee, it's the apex of white supremacy. And so my point here is that these people in the squad who talk about, oh, we're going to fight white supremacy, why aren't you fighting it on a global scale? You're literally part of a government that exports white supremacy. I don't care, you know, you can pretend that that's not true. No, it's fucking true, and you know it. And the same goes for the British, right? These are governments that export white supremacy. Their armies are vehicles of white supremacy. They go, they kill people of color, they subjugate them, they steal their resources, they occupy their land for 20 fucking years, decades, hundreds of years. I mean, how can you deny that? So my point here is that if you're really serious about fighting white supremacy, fight it at home and fight it at, overseas, fight it in other people's countries, fight it globally, because whether you like it or not, you're part of this fucking government that is exporting that white supremacy. That's a fact. That is exporting this suffering. I mean, even if you want to come here and tell me, no, it's not white supremacy and it's got nothing to do with that. Dude, people are being killed. They're being tortured. They're being kidnapped. They're subjugated. They're living under occupation. I don't care what you call it. That shit has to stop. So don't come here and pretend you care about gun violence and you care about mass shootings and violence, but you're going to be quiet when your own fucking armed forces do that on a daily basis to millions of people around the world and impose that on them. Don't lie to me. Don't lie to yourself. And so they're hypocrites. They are fucking hypocrites. They said nothing when Joe Biden bombed Syria. They barely said anything about Trump assassinating General Soleimani and almost starting a war there. They said nothing about him stealing the oil in Syria, about his coup in Venezuela. These people are hacks. They are covering for white supremacy. They're covering for this institutional, violence that is exported, and they're agents of imperialism. Whether they started out well-intentioned or not, they're not doing anything to stop it. They're not even addressing it, right? It's not even like we'll give you lip service and talk about it, but then do nothing. No, they don't even talk about it. Like AOC, for example, she hasn't said a fucking word about Joe Biden bombing Syria. How do you excuse that? You can't excuse that shit because she said it when Trump did it, right? So there's a double standard going on here. And again, I say that during Trump years, they didn't say anything about a lot of his imperialist violence. So you want to be serious about white supremacy, you want to fight violence. Well, start with your own party colleagues who are exporting that onto millions of people all across the world just to make money for the private sector. You can start with that, right? You can do both at the same time, right? So do it if you're serious. What were you elected for? I'm not a congressperson. You are. What were you elected for? So, yeah. You'll excuse me. I need a sip of my water. Thank you for your super chats. We have a lot of segments coming still, so don't go anywhere. I will read your super chats in a second. Please make sure to donate if you can and support independent media. You're not going to hear any of this on CNBC or NBC or any of the three-letter agencies and their propaganda mouthpieces. This is the real deal. All right, this is the real McCoy. This is the spot. This is where you get your anti-imperialist news. So please make sure that you support. Independent media can't do it without you. Right? So thank you for that. Just give me a second so I can hydrate. So we've got a couple of tips over here on Rockfin. Remember, you can let me adjust my silok. My kufia. We got a tip over here on Rockfin. Let me try and pull this up for you so you can read them with me instead of me just reading off of a screen. Give me a second. All right, I'm gonna close this out. Wonderful. So okay. So we got a couple of tips over here. Let's scroll to the top. We got one over here from Anna. Anna says, Richie, call Ron Placone and Jesse Jet to collaborate some goddamn entrance music. Yes. I must do that. I mean, I was playing a bit of the Riverline stuff before, the stuff that I was making with my band, but I kind of stopped making music, right? Because I didn't have time anymore since I started doing politics, right? So, I mean, we put out an album in June 2019, and then I just, it's kind of sad. I didn't have any time anymore for music. That's really messed up. I need to get back into that because, I love it. But yes, we need to get some entrance music going. Absolutely. And thank you for the tip. I appreciate it. Thank you to everyone who's watching on Rockfin. We got 36 people watching there right now. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And you guys, did you get notified by email about that? Because I'm curious how that works. YouTube is not notifying everyone. I'm wondering if Rockfin is doing it as well. This one is from Glenn, says Rockfin, FUT. I'm trying to figure out what that means. Hold on a second. Oh, fuck YouTube, right? Is that it? Okay, I got it. Dan Liss says, watching here, done with ScrewTube. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Glenn, Dan, Anna. I really appreciate it. Jin, there's no note attached, but Jin sent a tip. Thank you for that. Scott says, okay, there's also, there's no notes from Scott and Brian and Jin, but I appreciate it very much. Thank you so much. Jin says, when is Richie on Soapbox? So, oh, by the way, I don't know if I'm allowed to give out details, but I'm going to be on, I'm assuming it won't be live the same day, but I'm going to be on Left Bitches on Friday. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'm sure it'll come out probably the week after. So that'll be cool. That'll be dope. And thank you for your tips, guys. I'm just going to read the ones on YouTube as well now. Give me a second to pull those up. You guys are awesome. We got, okay, I'm gonna put them up on the screen so you actually read them with me, right? And again, I don't know what's happening with PayPal, if they're actually still screwing with it, but, you know. Okay, here we go. Wonderful, that boy. Splendid. Splendid. So, we got one over here. Says, this is from Holly. Holly says, I wanted to acknowledge and applaud your work on target. Thank you, Holly. I really appreciate that very much. You guys are really too sweet, honestly. Thank you for that. I'm very grateful. And Emma, has no note attached, but I'm very grateful for the donation nonetheless. Thank you for the super chat. I think the other ones, I don't know how to display them over here. I can only read them in the panel, so I'm gonna try and read them to you over here. Rami says, "Free Palestine, keep up the good work." Thank you for that. You know, we're never going to stop covering Palestine here. I don't care, you know, what kind of bullshit they try, because, you know, again, last year they tried to demonetize because of that. They can go to hell. خراي عليهم. نحن دائما مع فلسطين للأبد. So, thank you for that, Rami. Nico says, hey, Richard, I love the show. You're a savage. Also, you liked some of my tweets yesterday before I went to bed. Right, I remember, and thought I was dreaming when I woke up. I also dreamed we were fighting some neoliberals. We obviously won. I love it. I love it. That's what I'm talking about, man. We got to kick their asses. So that's awesome. I really appreciate the support. Thank you for that. Thank you so much. Kristen says thank you with a lovely sticker over here. Isn't there a way to do custom stickers on YouTube, or is that only for like you know, the politically correct channels like you know, the Young Turks? So I'd love to do that, because we can add I have a few good ideas about some stickers. I definitely want to put in the Uncle Joe's Rainbow Coalition Death Cult. If you haven't got your t-shirt yet, make sure you go get it. Gemini Socialist says, hi Richie, I'm half Arab, half white, just like you. Ahlan wa sahlan. Says, thanks for representing us well. Being American, I face discrimination for my race. How do you deal with discrimination, and does it affect you? Yeah, absolutely. You know, I was actually thinking about this because, you know, most people, they think that if you're Arab, you're automatically Muslim, right? And it's true. I mean, most Arabs are Muslim, right? But so my point is, I've encountered cases where, you know, people have said like Islamophobic things to me, and things like, oh, you're a terrorist, or things like that, you know, and they don't even know I'm Christian, or that, you know, in Syria 10% of the population is Christian, and even if I were Muslim, that's still a horrible thing to say. And, you know, these stereotypes and this xenophobia is disgusting regardless. But just to answer your question, yeah, like even though I'm not Muslim, I still get that shit, because they think all Arabs are, you know, the same, and they just care about putting everyone in a box, right? Marginalizing an entire group. So, I mean, someone who says those kinds of things, I'm not surprised that they wouldn't have any nuance or any idea about the Middle East to begin with. And, you know, it's just stupid. And I mean, how do you deal with it? You ignore it, man. What are you going to do? One way I hope that I'm dealing with it is with this, right? I hope that I'm educating people somehow to be more open-minded about imperialism and how it's destroying the world, and it's not in the pursuit of good. You know, it's not a democracy now. It's not thriving. It's still under occupation. You know, Afghanistan is still under occupation. Libya, Syria, these countries were destroyed. Latin America has been subject to God knows how many coups. You know, I can't even count them. I mean, colonialism, this is nothing new, but people are so blinded now by this, freedom, democracy bullshit. They think that they're doing people a favor. So I hope that, you know, this kind of, I hope that I can deal with it, so to speak, by educating others. And so when I read comments like, I found this informative, or I learned something, I'm very grateful for that. I'm happy, and it makes me very happy. So I hope that answers your question. And again, one reason why I'm annoyed by it is because, once again, as I told you, like, I'm not Muslim, but you know, these are still my brothers and sisters, right? Like in Syria, I've been invited over for Ramadan to break the fast, right, in the evening, and vice versa. You'll have your Muslim neighbors or friends come over for Christmas or Easter. Like this is how we live, right? I didn't hear about that. I lived that. I saw that. So I don't buy this shit that like, you know, or for example, you know, my mother, you know, her siblings, they were all born in the Jewish quarter in Damascus. Right. We had an Arabic house there. So, you know, I don't buy this shit that like, you know, Jews and Arabs and Muslims and Christians, they're all enemies. No, this is horseshit. This is not true. This is bullshit propaganda. Once again, going back to what we said, the media try to brainwash people into hating each other. And this is fucked up. And I hate it. And so I hope that educating people, you know, about what it is on the ground is helps in that regard. So, yeah. Vito says the U.S. is killing via proxies with missiles, stealing oil in other countries where the immigrants came from, and complained about they aren't grateful. Absolutely. I mean, you nailed it. And I'm going to expand on that in a second in the next segment. And it's 100% correct. 100% correct. And Vito says, have you read A Quiet Word? Lobbying Crony Capitalism, Adrib by Tasman Cave. She talks about how policymakers are influenced by lobbyists in the UK. No, I'm not familiar with I'm not familiar with that. I haven't read that, but yeah, have you heard about what is it called? The Henry Jackson Society, for example? You have a lot of these think tanks, these groups of policymakers that are actually just fucking gangsters, you know, cooperating with the UK, and it's disgusting, man. Right? You have a lot of people behind the scenes that no one has ever even heard of, but they're making huge decisions that impact millions of people across the world, not just in their not just abroad, but in their countries as well, and sending them off to war in wars to die. So I absolutely need to read that. But you know, man, lobbyists are criminals. Like I don't even know why lobbying is legal to begin with. Like these people are just agents of corruption. I'm still perplexed to this day why this is allowed in a lot of countries, that you can literally just buy off politicians. It's disgusting, honestly. And thank you for the recommendation. I will definitely put that on my list. Give me 1 second, please. So, lobbying, crony capitalism, Adrib. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for the tips also, the double tips, the double super chat. Holly says, I wanted to acknowledge, I already read this one, but I wanted to acknowledge and applaud your work. Thank you. And Mona says, Mona's in the house. Mona says, I forgot about your PayPal and sent it through there. Thank you, Mona. I appreciate it very much. Again, they kind of re-enabled my PayPal, so I think it should work now. I think it should be fine. And I'm going to try and read it on here. I'm not getting any notifications about it, but if you'll allow me 1 second. Nope. I'm not getting anything. Marks John sent something, but that's it. There's nothing else coming through. I think they must be still playing games. I don't know, man. They're being shady as hell, but I appreciate it, Mona. I'm very grateful. And, you know, just before I get back to your questions and your super chats, let me just continue with the next segment. Let me get through that, and then I'll gladly dedicate the rest of the time to that. So, 1 second. There we go. So, yeah, if you'd like to donate, I'm going to plug the show right now before I go into the next segment. If you'd like to donate, please do so on any platform that is convenient for you. Thank you for supporting independent media, for supporting anti-imperialist voices, and, you know, replace your... I've heard a lot of people say they've replaced their cable with indie media, and that's the best thing. That's the best thing we can all do. So thank you for that very much. There's the Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, and I highly recommend that you guys sign up on Rockfin because it's free. And if you do endorse, if you do subscribe for $10 a month, I mean, you're subscribing to everyone. Everyone gets paid. You get everyone's premium. It's great. And a lot of your favorite channels are already on there. So rockfin.com/RichardMedhurst. And I don't believe we've had a crab dance yet. We have not had a crab dance yet. But we definitely should. So sign up on Patreon, donate on the GoFundMe, or subscribe on Rockfin. I'll play you a crab dance. And by the way, I think we're almost there, right? We're almost at 400. So that should be great. That should be great. Joe Biden. I think we got over 400 at one point, and then I don't know what games they've been playing. I don't even want to know. I'm scared to look. But you know, they're playing games all the time with us. So, you know, we got to continue. Anyway, let's go on to the next segment, right? So, oh boy, this is a big one. So, okay. So the kids are still in cages, and you know, we covered this last month when they reopened this facility in Texas, in Carrizo, Texas, or Carrizo, Texas. I don't know if I'm saying it correctly, but this was a Trump detention facility, and you know, they were all criticizing Trump at the time, and then Biden goes ahead and reopens it like it's nothing, and they're all silent, right? And here's what's going on now. So they're blocking journalists. The Biden administration is blocking journalists from covering the kids in cages, right? I'm not saying that, I'm not exaggerating. No, they're saying no press allowed, not allowed to come in. You can't see what's inside. Nonetheless, let me show you this, okay? So just to give you some background, what's going on. Right now, okay, this is from the BBC. This is from CNN, excuse me. Biden administration says 14,000 migrant children are in custody as it refuses to call the border situation a crisis. And if you go to the BBC and you look at their statistics, right? Right now, about 15,000 unaccompanied youth migrants have been detained at the border in January and February. The total for all of last year was 37,000. In 2019, before the COVID pandemic slowed migrant movement, it was 75,000. At this pace, that mark will be easily surpassed, okay? And the way this works under the U.S. Customs and Border Protection, they have about 4,200 children, okay? They're in detention facilities along the border, and they're admitting an average of 565 children, mostly between the ages of 7 and 13, every day. Every day. And then the rest... I mean, you want to see the pictures? Do you want to see the pictures? Right? Let's go. So these are photos from inside a U.S. Customs and Border Protection temporary overflow facility in Dore, Texas. Okay? Look at that. Look at these pictures. What is that? Goodness gracious. I mean, they just replaced the fence with a plastic cover. And they're still sleeping on the floor with aluminum blankets. This is, what is that, honestly? And you know what the worst part is? They're saying now that they're not letting journalists in because they want to protect the privacy of these migrants. Again, I don't like that term because they're refugees, right? They're fleeing war, they're fleeing violence, they're fleeing economic, sanctions and hardships that have been brought on as a result of U.S. Foreign policy. That's what it really comes down to. So they try to whitewash the reality by calling them migrants. No, they're refugees, and they're fleeing conditions that have been largely created by the West. Let's not kid ourselves here. And, you know, I just want to show you what they've been saying. So Jen Psaki, who's the White House spokesperson, look what she says. She was asked, this is on March 23rd, any update on the border access for journalists that we talked about yesterday? And then Jen Psaki says, I expect you'll have more details soon, but our plan is to make access available, likely through a pool, and we're working to finalize those details. Okay, so what does that mean? We're working to finalize those details. I don't know what that means. And then you got the head of the Department of Homeland Security, right? Again, this was created under Bush, and his name is Mayorkas, and he gets asked about why journalists are being blocked, and they weren't allowed to come along on a pool of lawmakers that actually went down and visited the border, right, with him. So he gets asked about that on MSNBC. Take a look at what he says. Okay, I'm not getting any audio for some reason.
I have said accurately, quite frankly, that that's no place for a child. And third, we are in the midst of a pandemic. We are focused on our operations.
All right, if you'll excuse me, I just need to refresh that. Maybe it'll work now. Nope, it's dead. That's wonderful. It's dead.
And joining me now is the Homeland Security Secretary.
Which I have said accurately, quite frankly, that that's no place for a child. And third, we are in the midst of a pandemic. We are focused on our operations in removing children from those crowded Border Patrol stations to the Health and Human Services facilities that can best shelter them. And we are also
Okay, guys, you'll have to excuse me. I will fix the clip afterwards in this segment when you're watching. You'll have to excuse me for that. But you know, he gets asked why are journalists being blocked, and he won't give a straight answer, right? He won't give a straight answer at all. And the only thing that he says that it's about their privacy, right? And I think this is utterly absurd. And he says it's about COVID as well, which I also think is utterly absurd, because if you look at those pictures, I mean, that's not distancing. And I mean, what are you afraid of? That, you know, the journalists are going to do something or vice versa? I mean, this is not okay to begin with, right? Like, this is not about, you're already screwing with their health. You're destroying their health as it is with these conditions, right? If you remember, under Trump, several people died, right? They can't deal with this, and they're trying to cover it up and say that it's not a crisis. They refuse to refer to it as such, and you know, they say, oh, we don't have the right resources, and it's all Trump's fault, dude. So it's not just about the pandemic. You're screwing with people. I mean, this is messed up. Just look at that. Look at this, and you know how much they pay private corporations for this, right? You know that despite Biden's claim that, oh, we're ending private prisons, and you know that's wrong and stuff. You know, he just appointed Kamala Harris to deal with this crisis just like an hour ago. Okay, she's going to be in charge now of dealing with the border crisis. So a white supremacist, a segregationist, just appointed a cop, a jailer, to deal with this 14,000 children. These are just the children, by the way, 14,000 total. Okay, that are at the border. And do you know how much they're paying corporations? Hundreds every single day per child. Dude, you could put every child in a luxury hotel in a suite for that money. I mean, why are they doing this? Because someone's making a buck. Someone is making money off of this, right? This is not an exaggeration. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, they've spent their entire lives helping, I mean, various industries, right? The credit card industry and Wall Street, of course, the military industrial complex. One of those industries is the prison industrial complex, right? Biden wrote the fucking crime bill. Kamala Harris, top cop, right? From San Francisco. So, I mean, these people are part of this institution. Someone is making money off of this shit. The containers that we saw last month in Carrizo, Texas, they're from Mobile View, okay? Mobile View is making money off of this, right? So they're not, it's not kids in cages anymore. It's kids in containers with bars on the windows. But it's okay because Mobile View is going to make some money from that. And then, of course, over here, you know, do you think they're going to get rid of the DHS? They're going to get rid of now, okay, this you could say it's under Customs and Border Protection. That's different. But, you know, you still have people being arrested, detained by ICE, right? Which was also created as part of the DHS. Do you think that they're going to do anything about that? Of course not. Even though that's a Bush policy. And they were constantly telling you about how evil ICE is. They're not going to do anything about ICE. And, you know, it's really interesting. So here's a reporter who's asking again, Jen Psaki, about this. And this is last month, particularly after Carrizo, right? Okay, now you see, now I'm going to get mad because I told you last time we're having issues with my goddamn sound card. And it's plaguing me again. It's plaguing me again. So, you know, thanks for supporting indie media. I'll make sure to get a new sound card so we can fix this crap. This bitch is dead. So anyway, going back to the video, I'll fix it in post. You know, he's asking her like, okay, so it's not kids in cages, it's kids in containers now. They will not answer the question. They refuse. And then there's a clip also where Ilhan Omar, she's invited on CNN to talk about this. And, you know, she's asked about the fact that Joe Biden is blocking the press corps from going in and actually, you know, taking photographs and documenting, reporting on the conditions that these kids are in. And she won't answer the question. She won't answer it. She won't talk about it. She just goes off on a tangent. And this is from the Washington Post, okay? The headline reads, "I'm a photojournalist. Why is the administration banning me from border facilities?" This is written by John Moore, okay? It says, for the past 4 presidential administrations, I've accompanied U.S. Customs and Border Protection agents and photographed their encounters with migrants as they enforced immigration policy. No longer. Okay, this is from March 22nd, huh? 3 days ago. He goes on to say, last week when I documented migrant detentions in El Paso, I had to do so from the Mexican side of the border, taking long-range shots. Until now, journalists haven't had to stand in another country to cover what is happening in the United States. I mean, that's insane. He goes on to say here that I followed a Border Patrol transport bus in my own vehicle to where agents were detaining migrants. They stopped me before I got close enough to take pictures. They called a supervisor and ordered me to leave immediately. We've gone from the Trump era zero tolerance policy toward immigrants to a Biden zero access policy for journalists covering immigration. This development is unprecedented in modern history. While the Trump administration reduced access somewhat when the pandemic began for defensible reasons of safety, the Biden administration has gone much further and eliminated it altogether. This ban extends to the holding facilities on the border that temporarily house migrants, facilities that are the source of considerable controversy, right? Like this one that I just showed you in the pictures, right? Where they say this is a temporary overflow facility. They try to whitewash the very terms. These have grown so crowded that a court-appointed monitor last week called the situation not sustainable. The Department of Health and Human Services reported last Friday that there are 9,800 unaccompanied minors in shelters, with many more on the way. Right? And again, as I pointed out, the White House, they refused to call it a crisis. And he says, I'd be happy to show that's the case. And he goes on to say as well, the current administration took over with a pledge to make U.S. immigration policy more humane and transparent, but it is falling short on the latter goal, which makes it hard to judge how it is doing on the former. We journalists have no way of verifying how conditions have improved for migrants. Well, I'm not surprised. I mean, what am I supposed to say, man? They are liars. Yes. They are crooks. They are liars. They lied. That's what they do. They've done that their entire careers. We warned you. No one listened. And, you know, it's frankly astonishing, though, the bar was quite low, and to improve from Bush and Trump, and yet they managed to do even worse with this. Can you remind me just very briefly, what do the United States and the UK, what do they call other countries who block journalists from reporting on this kind of stuff? Don't they call them authoritarian? Don't they call those places dictatorships? No? And then they argue about why they should suffer under sanctions and why they should be bombed and why, the whole planet should interfere because they do things like this, allegedly, right? Aren't they saying that in China you have concentration camps, right? They keep talking about this. Okay, well, I mean, if you're concerned about human rights, I'm trying to take you seriously. If you're really concerned about human rights, what kind of policy is this? What is this over here? If you're confident that what you're doing is okay, why won't you let journalists walk in and show people? I'd love for you to shut me up. Show me that everything's fine. It's humane. It's clean. It's healthy. And I'll shut up. And even then, I won't shut up because the reason people are fleeing in the first place is because you fucking destroyed their countries. But they're hiding it. They're liars. And they, again, like he says, they lied. They said Biden campaign pledges transparent, open relationship with the press. You call this a transparent, open relationship with the press? I know you ain't got one because, they just filed to appeal the extradition decision by Judge Baretzer not to extradite Julian Assange. They're appealing that. They want to extradite Julian Assange to the US and try him. So yeah, they obviously hate journalists, and there's nothing. The only transparent thing about the Biden administration is their fucking corruption, right? That's the only transparent thing. So it's just really interesting seeing the change in tone, right? It's just really interesting seeing the change in tone. And I remind you, AOC, she called them concentration camps, right? During Trump's tenure, she said they're concentration camps. You remember Kamala Harris said Trump's treatment of migrants is a crime against humanity. Yeah, you remember that? So why are you reopening his facilities and doing the same crap? If you're saying this is a concentration camp and you're saying that this is a crime against humanity, so you're saying there's a sense of urgency here, this is an atrocity, why would you go and continue that? Why are you barring the media from covering what's going on? Huh? Now, to be fair, I think I saw one tweet from AOC. I think she said that, oh, this is not okay. This has never been okay. It never will be okay, no matter the administration or party. Right? And then she correctly goes out to call out ICE and the Department of Homeland Security. Very good. Right? I completely agree with this. And that's it. That's it. I'm confused. I'm very confused because she hasn't said anything about these horrendous pictures over here. I mean, this is horrifying. What is that? Could you imagine if this shit came out of Syria? Could you imagine if they said that this was in Syria? Oh my God, look at what the brutal Syrian regime is doing to its own people. Quick, we have to go and bomb them. Could you imagine that shit? Most people would believe it, right? They would look at that and be, oh yeah, that's Syria, dude. Or anything, China, Venezuela, just, oh my God, look at this. But when Biden does it, we're working on finalizing an answer for you. You remember this crap? Idina Menzel, what did she say after Biden got elected? Oh, what a relief. My son just hugged me and said, Mommy, no more kids in cages. Tears of joy and tears of sadness. Yeah, tears of a dumb fuck is more like it. That's what's going on here. All right. And of course, you have Nancy Pelosi. I'm having issues with my audio, but I'll fix this in post. She called. Look what she calls. Let me show you. Let me show you this. Okay. Look what Nancy Pelosi says. Pelosi says Biden's approach to migrant crisis shows a love of children. Really? That you call this love of children? This shit? That is so dehumanizing. You have so much money. You could put, it's not even a question of using other money. They're already paying corporations to do this. With that same money, and probably even less, they could put every child in a fucking suite in a hotel, right? That's how much they are paying these corporations. This is a racket. going on, as usual, like with everything in the United States. There's a racket going on. It's a fucking mafia. Make no mistake, that's what it comes down to, okay? These people are running a racket. They're criminals. And Ilhan Omar, to her credit, she's planning a trip down to the border, right? She responded to a tweet over here by Joaquin Castro, who said, on Friday, I'll lead a delegation to the Carrizo Springs facility for unaccompanied children at the border, oversight to ensure humane treatment and orderly process to unite kids with families. For any member of Congress who would like to attend, please reach out to my office. And she did. She said, I'll be there. And I say to her credit, because if you recall, during Trump, they went down there and AOC, she was like crying at the fence and everything. And look, man, I'm not saying her emotions were not genuine, but she's silent now. So I'm confused. Like, if you consider this heartbreaking, and I think it is under Trump, is it not equally heartbreaking now? And even more concerning that they're not letting journalists in to cover it? Does that not make you cry as well? I'm confused. Like, this is not matching up. There's two different reactions going on there. Complete silence, huh? So she's not going down there. And according to the New York Post, a spokesperson for Ocasio-Cortez did not immediately respond to the New York Post request for comment on whether she plans to make the trip. That's a bit weird. I mean, can you really mince words about this issue? How can you mince words? Am I mincing words? This is fucked up. I don't understand that, right? I don't understand that. How they can pretend to care, or again, perhaps they genuinely do care. When it happens under Trump, but then when Biden consents to it, nothing, right? Weird. It's weird. And I'm just shocked at this. I mean, I don't even know what to say. Like, their fucking hypocrisy is so staggering that it just. Look, man, I need to explain something. It's hard giving them the benefit of the doubt, right? What did they tell you the entire time before they elected Biden? They say Biden is going to be the most transparent with the media. Biden is not going to do what Trump did. No, he's going to communicate with the press. He's going to tell you things even if they're hard to hear. He's going to be honest, right? We're going to bring back dignity to the Oval Office. Okay, where is it? Biden is locking up thousands, tens of thousands of children, right? 14,000 now at the border. In not cages. Now they're not kids in cages anymore. They're kids in containers. They're kids living like this. What is that? If you called that out under Trump, why aren't you calling that out now? Right? If that broke your heart under Trump, why does it not break your heart now under Biden? I mean, you sound like a fucking hypocrite. You sound like a hack when you do that. Right? And so all of these people that were saying that these are concentration camps and that, this is a crime against humanity, now they're not saying anything, not a word, right? AOC is doing photo shoots, at the border, and now she won't go there. She won't even respond to the New York Post whether she's actually going. Isn't that weird? She didn't say anything about Joe Biden bombing Syria, about bombing my country. Why did you open your mouth under Trump? And good that you did, but now you won't say anything when Joe Biden is doing the same thing, when he's continuing the same exact policies, right? Joe Biden is prosecuting Julian Assange, just like Trump. Joe Biden is stealing oil in Syria. He's bombing Syria. He's keeping the regime change war in Syria going, right? He won't re-enter the JCPOA with Iran like he promised. Yeah? He's still providing support to Saudi Arabia behind the scenes. He's still going to sell them defensive weapons so they can use them against the people of Yemen. He's still pushing regime change in Venezuela. He's still locking up kids in cages. These people are the biggest fucking hypocrites on the planet, right? They pretend that their policies are rooted in human rights. They're total fucking hypocrites. You ever seen them stand up for Palestine? They're not doing shit, They're not doing anything for Palestinians, man. They're keeping that occupation going. They're keeping the wars going. They're keeping this prison industrial complex racket going. You got a segregationist and a fucking jailer that are now in charge of a migrant crisis. Again, they're refugees. They're fleeing conditions that were created by Western policies, that were created by sanctions, by war, by locking these countries into debt with the IMF and so on, right? You created these situations. The United Kingdom, the US, the West created these situations. And then they have the nerve to call these people, leeches instead of what they really are, which is refugees fleeing violence perpetuated by imperialism. And they cover for them. The Squad are the biggest line of defense for the Democratic Party, right? Women of color, they're being used as tokens to shield the Democrats from criticism. That's what it's about, right? Because if you open your mouth, they say, oh, you're misogynist, you're racist, blah, 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 blah. Even though they're bombing brown people in other countries. They're bombing Arabs. They're continuing to occupy Afghanistan. They're continuing to push regime change in Venezuela. They're the fucking racists. They're literally pushing racist policies that kill people, that colonize and subjugate them. And now calling that out, that's misogyny? No, I think displacing millions of women and killing their babies is fucking misogyny. But you can't say that, of course, right? So this is their best line of defense. They're just a marketing tool. It's just to shield Nancy Pelosi, Biden from any criticism, right? They come out, they talk the talk, and as I said, sometimes they don't even say a word. And then, you're not allowed to open your mouth about that, right? Because now it's okay. Now that the guy with the D next to his name, now that the blue Trump is doing it, now it's okay. Go back to sleep. These people are unfucking believable, honestly. They're unbelievable. And this was such a huge a line that they were selling you, right? Trump, this bastard, he's putting kids in cages. Biden is not going to do that. Biden is going to be better. No, with what? He's still prosecuting journalists, continuing wars, making tons of bucks for the private sector. He's a piece of shit, just like he was for the last 40 years. Everybody saw this coming, but of course, nobody would listen. Unbelievable. I need a goddamn sip of water, man. It's starting to piss me off. Oh, man. So I'll get to my next segment, and then after that, I will answer all your questions and read your lovely comments and super chats and all this stuff. And I thank you for that. Thank you for supporting independent media. Just let me get a sip over here, and I'll continue. All right. So thank you for your patience. I appreciate it very much. And again, if you have not hit the like button yet, please do so. So let's continue. So Bolivia, right? We've covered the coup that happened in late 2019 and the right-wing takeover, which was supported by the U.S. And some recent developments, right? So as you know, MAS, which is the Socialist Party, which was led by Evo Morales, was ousted by this U.S.-backed coup in late 2019. They won the elections, right? Just a few months back. They actually took back their country, and now they've arrested the coup leaders. So when Evo Morales was, again, I love how the mainstream media report on this. He just resigned, right? He just resigned. No, he was forced into resignation because it was a coup. When he left, he fled. This woman took over, right? She's a senator, and she declared herself the president of Bolivia. We're talking about Janine Áñez, okay? So you might remember her. There we go, Janine Áñez. And this is her now, behind bars, right? So this is from Al Jazeera. This was on the 13th of March, right? So just about 2 weeks ago. So Bolivia's former interim president, Janine Áñez, has been arrested over the 2019, pay attention to the words, political crisis that saw her replace predecessor Evo Morales, reigniting tensions in the South American nation. The conservative politician had faced an arrest warrant on charges of terrorism. I love how they put it in quotes, in quotation marks, sedition, and conspiracy over an alleged coup after she replaced Morales in November 2019 when he fled the country during widespread protests against his re-election. Again, whitewashing history, right? So let me zoom in actually so you can actually read that. This is from Carlos Eduardo del Castillo, okay? So he's a government minister. He said, I informed the Bolivian people that Mrs. Janine Áñez has already been apprehended and is currently in the hands of the police. And then Castillo congratulated the police for their great work and in this historic task of giving justice to the Bolivian people, right? And what's really interesting here is pay attention to the language, because if you look at the way Al Jazeera are reporting this, right, they say that this was an alleged coup, right? That's the language that they're using. Okay? The events constituted a coup. Like they won't actually acknowledge that it was a coup, which is extremely bizarre to me because, you know, when you have people, when you have violent right-wingers that come over and burn down your sister's house, which is what they did to Evo Morales, and they come and trash your house, they trash the president's house, and then they threaten other government ministers and government officials with violence. And then the chief of the armed forces asks you to resign. He's not asking you to resign. Look, man, when the army asks you to resign, right, to tender your resignation, they're fucking cooing you. It's a military takeover. It's a military coup, okay? And not a peaceful one. People died, right? During and after. So just let me remind you, you had summary executions and widespread repression under Bolivia's interim government, okay? They're killing indigenous people most of all, right? Almost exclusively. If you look here that it says here, Áñez assumed power on November 12th. By the way, this is from Harvard, right? Áñez assumed power in November 12th, 2019 with the mandate of calling new elections by January 2020. Under her administration, Bolivia has endured a surge of human rights violations. Shortly after Áñez took power, state forces carried out operations that killed at least 23 Bolivian civilians, all indigenous, and injured over 230. These casualties make November 2019 the second deadliest month in terms of civilian deaths committed by state forces since Bolivia became a democracy nearly 40 years ago. And of course, the United States supported this coup, right? This is Donald Trump's statement right after. So again, look at this. The resignation yesterday of Bolivian President Evo Morales is a significant moment for democracy in the Western Hemisphere. No, it wasn't a resignation. You literally couped him with the OAS, the Organization of American States, which called the election results fraudulent. And, they said there was a huge discrepancy between the preliminary results and the final results, and that this clearly indicated voter fraud. And then, of course, the mainstream media ran with it. Washington Post, New York Times, all of them. Yeah, look, election fraud. He's cheating. And he left because he got caught, not because they threatened him with violence and the military couped him. And it turns out a few months later, those discrepancies, which they claim were 100% bulletproof evidence of election fraud, were actually totally fine. There was no election fraud, and he won the election. And they refused to refer to what happened as a coup, despite the police and the military literally ousting the dude. I mean, he had to flee. First, I think it was to Mexico, and then he ended up in Argentina. Right now, he's back, as we saw, since a few months. Arce is now the president, and again from the same party, from MAS, so Movement for Socialism. And it's frankly unbelievable that the mainstream media is basically shielding this U.S.-backed coup, not just them, but also now. Even after they reported that, we were wrong and there was nothing wrong with it, with the election results. Morales did not cheat, and they ignore all of this. And so this is from Telesur. A judge has revoked Agnès' transfer to a medical center. Okay, so let me just zoom in again for you. There you go. So they're saying that her defense, has filed 3 different appeals to prevent her transfer to a prison. On the last occasion, her lawyers alleged that the defendant was going through a hypertension crisis. So I believe that's high blood pressure, for which she would receive treatment at the Sur Clinic in La Paz. However, on Friday, the criminal investigation judge, Armando Zeballos, revoked her transfer request and ordered to create an ad hoc medical team to assist Agnès while in prison. All right. So she's claiming that, she did nothing wrong. And if we go here and look at the charges. So again, this is from Al Jazeera. They're saying Bolivia's Janine Agnès ordered to 4 months pretrial detention. And, they've charged her with terrorism, which they put in under quotation marks in the last one. And it's not just her, right? Like, I don't want you to think that this is a witch hunt just against her, or that there's something going on here. No, they've also gone after the head of the army, right? So this is also from Telesur. Ex-army commander arrested for his role in the 2019 coup, right? So Mendieta commanded the army when General Caliman suggested to Evo Morales that he should leave the presidency. Bolivian Public Prosecutor's Office on Monday arrested former army commander Jorge Mendieta for his involvement in the coup against ex-president Evo Morales after the 2019 elections, right? Mendieta commanded the army when General Caliman told Morales, and again, when the army is suggesting that you leave, it's a coup. I don't really know how more I can simplify that for you. This happened again in November 2019, right? So one other interesting point that you need to note is that Bolivia, it's not just an interesting point, it's everything. Bolivia sits on the world's largest reserves of lithium. And I covered this before. I did a piece on it about how you had, even Elon Musk, for example, right? He makes these Tesla cars. They literally run on batteries, and lithium is used to make batteries. And talking about what happened in Bolivia, he said, "We'll coup whoever we want" on Twitter, and then he deleted that. And then Janine Agnès, who's now been arrested, who proclaimed herself the president, she was trying to dissolve deals that Evo Morales' government had organized, in order to extract this lithium, which would have gone to the people, right? So, I mean, these people that took over, they're not interested in fucking democracy. First of all, they didn't even hold the elections that they promised in January. That did not come. It was delayed several months. And then, of course, they're trying to cooperate with multinationals and get their hands on Bolivia's reserves of lithium instead of it going to the people. That's what they, again, it's all about resources, man. It's not a coincidence that Bolivia sits on the largest lithium salts in the world. It's not a coincidence that Venezuela has the largest reserves of oil in the world, right? These are not coincidences, man. These people will kill, they will coup, they will, go and implement regime change and put in whoever they like for money, right? That's what they did in Iran in 1953. They kicked out, they couped Mossadegh for the oil. Because he nationalized the oil. They went and did that in Guatemala in 1954, right? Because of United Fruit Company. Yes, over fucking bananas. They will literally kill people and push a coup. It's not just about regime change in the sense of politics. I mean, don't kid yourself. These people are not Oh, goddamn it, one of my posters fell down. CIA is knocking through the window. Be careful. But seriously, like, these people don't care about actually pushing democracy. They don't give a fuck, right? This is all a cover. They don't care about, look, we're going to promote free and fair elections in Bolivia now. They don't give a shit, man. This is all about pushing corporations' agenda, making sure that, you know, they can extract oil, lithium. In the case of Afghanistan, you got tons of, look at the opium trade. You go and look at 2001, 2002 when they invaded. Look at the production of opium, skyrocketed under US occupation. It's all about fucking profits. Make no mistake, whether it's at home or it's abroad, that's all the government is doing. They're not actually representing people. They're there to push corporate agenda. And it's the same thing here. And they will use tools like the OAS, like the Organization of American States, to, you know, play this role of the arbiter. Like, oh yeah, look, we've caught some discrepancies, and this is clear indication of election fraud. And I'm sorry, but you're illegitimate. You know, it's like you know, the OAS is based in Washington, D.C., right? Most of its funding comes from the United States. It's a Cold War institution. So they've launched this entire sustained media campaign in order to portray Morales as, again, oh, look, he's a dictator. Oh, my God, he's stealing the elections. Oh, my God, there's election fraud. You know, the guy is trying to impose his will on the Bolivian people and be their president for a fourth term. Same shit. They always demonize the leader of a country with vast resources that they want to go after. That's what it's all about. It's disgusting. And so even now, to see that they're, you know, Bolivians actually getting justice for motherfuckers that tried to run a coup, they're still trying to say, oh, no, this was not a coup. It was an alleged coup. It's an alleged coup. Yo, I don't know. Dude, when you have the military and the police telling the president to fuck off, I mean, it does not get more it does not get more clear and explicit than that. It really does not. They were going to kill that guy, okay? His life was literally in danger. They killed his dog. Do you know they shot his fucking dog? I mean, that's how deranged these people are. And so it's actually interesting. One of you pointed this out, that, you know, their regime change puppet was not saved. Usually the United States, you know, they'll try and save their tools. They'll try and give them some kind of protection. And in this case, no, it's just I guess in one sense, it's not surprising. If you look at a lot of the allies that the United States has formed in the past, when they're done with them, they feed them to the wolves. You know, they used Saddam to attack Iran. Look what they did afterwards to Saddam, right? Look at Gaddafi, right? I mean, obviously, I think they're quite different, the two. But, you know, my point is that, for example, Gaddafi was friends with Sarkozy. He gave him millions for his re-election campaign. And then what does Sarkozy do? He turns around and fucking bombs him. I mean, like they literally use African and Arab and Latin American leaders and then turn around and just stab them in the back, right? And look at the Kurds, for example. The Americans and, you know, they've used the Kurds as a buffer against the Syrian government. And then, as you saw, they kind of just pulled out and left nothing in between them and Turkey. And I mean, again, this is so funny because you hear people like AOC saying, like, oh no, Trump should not pull out of Turkey because, pull out of Syria because, you know, this is irresponsible. It's too soon. Like she's trying to justify occupation, the illegal occupation of Syria, by claiming that it's under the pretext of some humanitarian mission for the Kurds. Like this is ridiculous, right? And this is how you end up with forever wars. They always have like this reasoning. Oh, it's too soon. We can't pull out just yet. No, this is not going to work. Blah 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 blah. Right? They'll come up with any reason. But my point here is how the United States, the UK, they always use people and then they just dump them at the last second, right? They have no allies or friends. They just use people. And this, you'll see the same shit happen with Saudi Arabia, right? Saudi Arabia thinks that, oh, they're protected, they're safe because they're working with Israel, and you know, you have Bahrain and UAE that are also playing on the same team. One day there's going to come a day where they're going to get fucked. That day is coming, and the United States is going to put a knife in their back. That's what it's going to come down to. So anyway, I mean, I don't want to laugh at people's misery, but I'm not going to cry over seeing this fucking right-wing tool for the United States being thrown in jail after what she did. I mean, these people, they took out Bolivia's first indigenous president. He lifted out so many people from, he lifted so many people out of poverty. You know, every time someone does something good for their people in a socialist country, they have to go and coup him. Always, right? You can't nationalize the country's resources. No. You better give us a cut. You give our multinationals a cut or we will fuck you up. Always about money. It's always about profit. So I'm glad that Bolivia is they made it out, right, of that. And by the way, the U.S. has couped them before in the past. Like this is how fucked up their policy is towards Latin America. That it's not that they've interfered in literally every single Latin American country. They have interfered multiple times in some of those countries, right? Done like several coups. Like, yeah, this is. And then people wonder, why are there so-called migrants coming from Central and Latin America? No, they're refugees. You've been fucking their countries for decades, stealing their resources, you know, subjugating them, imposing sanctions on them. That's why they're fleeing, because you destroy their countries. You stole everything. You build yourself up, and then you scratch your head while they're coming. And the Europeans do the same thing, right? The UK calls Libyans or people from Somalia or Afghanistan or Syria or wherever they're coming from, they're migrants. No, they're refugees, and you're to blame. So anyway, I'm glad to see that the Bolivians have taken back their country, and that they did not become another puppet of the United States. Good for them. Solidarity. So yeah, I better. One of my goddamn artworks just fell down. I'll get that fixed. We'll be all right. So let me just get to your super chats and your comments, guys. Let me just get to what you guys have been saying. Florin says, "Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Florin. I appreciate it very much for your double super chat, your double tips." Mikey says, "You're a real one, my boy. So done with the liberal YouTubers." Thank you. I appreciate that. And yeah, look, man. I mean, it's so funny watching them cover for Biden, right? Like, they're still trying to blame Trump. This is what is absolutely mind-boggling. I feel like I should fix the American Idiot poster. But this is what's so mind-boggling, although unsurprising, about a lot of the Democrats and the boutique left on YouTube, or who call themselves independent media. I mean, we knew that they were going back to brunch, that they're going to go back to sleep when Biden takes over. We knew this, but it's just interesting how they're still trying to blame Trump for shit that is happening under Biden. I mean, you control the Senate, barely. You control the House. You control the White House. And again, you don't come here and tell me that, the president can't do everything. Well, you said it was a life and death situation with Trump in the Oval Office. So obviously you wield power if you're the president. And so now they have control of, the White House, the Senate, the House, and they're claiming that everything that is happening is Trump's fault. I mean, yes, Trump is a shithead. So is Biden, right? It's one big gang. And it's so funny how they're trying to say that, look, the border situation, it's not a crisis, but if it is a crisis, well, it's Donald Trump's fault because, he messed up the refugee application program or the asylum seeker program, and people can't apply from their whole countries anymore. And look, like, we're short on resources, and, this is all Trump's fault. Motherfucker, you just bombed my country last month. Could you not pinch a few pennies and not drop less bombs instead? What are you doing? And then, they're trying to say also that, the fact that these shootings took place in the last 2 days, which were absolutely horrific, they've been happening. This has been happening for a long time. This didn't start neither under Biden nor Trump. I mean, Columbine was not under Trump or Biden. I don't see how either of them are directly responsible for it. Although I could understand the case if you argued Biden is, because that motherfucker wrote the crime bill and he's been pushing right-wing policies his entire career. So yeah, he's part of the problem. He's an architect of the system, and the system creates fear. The system creates shit like this, right? But nonetheless, they're still trying to deflect like anything possible. No, it's Trump's fault. Wow, what happened to all of this restoration of dignity and transparency and rationale and being straight up, being clear, direct with the press, right? Now they won't let the press actually go and investigate what's happening in these migrant detention overflow facilities, as they call them. Not detention, they say migrant overflow facilities. It's, they're kids in containers. What happened to all that? You promised change. Oh no, you're liars? Who could have seen that coming? And, it's just unbelievable. It's not just the Democrats, it's also these so-called, YouTubers, as you mentioned, who are, they're masquerading as indie media, but I mean, they're just carrying water for the Democratic Party. And whether they're paid or not, I mean, I think they genuinely believe this shit, which is even more concerning, right? Which is even more concerning. They actually believe this shit. Yeah, that's incredible. So, just give me a second. I'm going back to your super chats. Brian says, keep advocating for journalism, Richard. We need a fourth estate, and we sure as hell don't have one. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they say that in a democracy, or supposed liberal democracy, that, the fourth estate holds the government accountable. Yo, I mean, yeah, it doesn't exist. If you look at the United Kingdom, because again, this is not just an American problem. You look at the UK, the tabloid press, the British press is, I mean, one of the most disgusting fucking establishments on the face of this planet. I mean, it's foul. It's fucking vile. These people are disgusting, right? I mean, I have no words to describe how corrupt they are. They are almost as bad as the American press, if not worse, right? Really, and I genuinely mean that. They have mastered lying and propagating this fear. They were just as good as the Americans at stoking the coals of fear for the war on terror. Just as effective, just as good, right? And Britain was a huge ally in that. And then, of course, Julian Assange, for example, right? I mean, dude, I'm standing in the middle of fucking London and I'm covering this case and there's no one outside. The only people, let me tell you something, man. The only people who showed up every day outside of the courthouse, outside of the Old Bailey, were RT, Rupley, right? And Press TV. Who, again, if they'll go and put like these labels on them on Twitter, like, look, it's Russian state media and Iranian affiliated media, like as if okay, so where's Sky News? Where's Channel 4? Where's the BBC? Where's ITV? Where are you people? And then, of course, you know what they would do? Like on the last day, some guy from Sky News came to cover it. And then he couldn't even say the judge's name properly. Like, okay, that's fine. We all mess up names sometimes. That's okay. But my point is, he struck me as someone who was not very familiar with the case, and that's kind of, I mean, this is a scandal. What is happening? They're putting a journalist on trial in the middle of London, and none of you covered it. Right? And I say in the middle of London. Why do I say that? Why is there emphasis on this is happening in the middle of London? Because the UK, the US, they portray themselves as being these highly civilized and really advanced and illuminated liberal democracies. Like, we're not savages there, boy. We have freedom of expression and assembly and democracy and a fourth estate. Really? Where is it? Where is it? And then, they pretend that only other countries are indoctrinated, like North Korea, right? Or Syria or Iran, or it's fundamentally racist. It's like, oh, look, these people over there, they're not developed cognitively enough to be as, smart as us and as politically cultivated and open-minded as us. They're so indoctrinated, like as if people in the UK and in France and in Germany and in the US are not indoctrinated. Holy shit, dude! The British population, the American population, these are some of the most fucking indoctrinated persons on the planet, and it's heartbreaking, honestly, because they're robbing them. I mean, they're robbing workers left and right, sending them off to kill other people on the other side of the planet. They're using them day in, day out, and then somehow convince them that they are actually living in a liberal democracy and in a prosperous, advanced society, and that everyone else is a savage. Oh, man, do I got some shit to tell you? It's hilarious, honestly, and very sad at the same time. All right. Just speaking of a fourth estate. So yeah, I can't believe the CIA messed with my poster, man. Remember, if something spooky happens, it's always the CIA. So there we go. Cam 35mm says for hitting it out of the park tonight. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. That is very humbling. Chris Wood says, got to put Jimmy back in his spot. That's why the other posters fell down. Shit, you're right. You're right, man. You're right. That's probably why. Somebody was complaining about the Muse poster. I mean, I'm not really that big of a fan of Muse. Like there's some good songs. The main reason I put it up is because it's very colorful, right? I like the artwork of that album, even though it's like one of their worst in my opinion. Please don't hate. I'm gonna try and get something else, right? Because most of these I made them myself. You can't find them in rectangular format or anything. So I'll think of something else. But I need to put Jimmy back, right? You know why I moved him? Because the logo up here, the RM, it was blocking his face, and I felt bad. I was like, no, let me put him over there, highlight him, you know. So that's why. But yeah, he got mad probably. He got mad. So Roger says corporations are the core of the rot represented by their money. They we should pass laws to replace them with worker co-ops, and decisions won't be based solely on bottom line. Yeah, I mean, you look at the way worker co-ops function, and I mean, just to give you an example. In Germany, okay, and I'm not talking about worker co-ops just yet, but just to give you an example, in Germany, for example, they have, the law stipulates that half the board of a company, I think this is if they exceed 500 employees, half the board of the company has to be elected by the workers and must be constituted of workers, right? So half the company's board has to be made up of people who actually work in the company, not some fucking shareholder or some guy, who's just not even involved in any of it. And that's already a huge improvement. Okay, it's not perfect. Now, when we get to worker co-ops, now we're dealing with something even better, right? And people think that this is something that doesn't work. No, it's not. You look at the Mondo Corporation in Spain. I mean, Richard Wolff talks a lot about this, and I had him on the show. He's great. They're one of the most successful companies in Spain, man. That's a worker co-op. Don't tell me this does not work. This is just propaganda. This is bullshit from corporations. Of course, they're going to tell you anything that doesn't, feed their bottom line and line their pockets is bad and does not work. Yeah, of course. Right? It's just like when they tell you, so look at these socialist countries. They don't work after they fucking put them under sanctions and cooed them and bombed them and undermined their governments and destroyed their economies. Yeah, it's very easy then to say, look, this other system where we can't get a cut because they won't give us any of their natural resources. Oh, look, it doesn't work. Okay, man. So, yeah, I agree. And just to read the tips on Rockfin, thank you so much for your tips on Rockfin. We got, just let me scroll up over here. This is from Clive Hewlett. Thank you, Clive. I appreciate that very much. There's no note with the tip, but I'm very grateful for it nonetheless. And Lucky Burrito Art and Music, that's a great name, says, my husband is a musician and we write music too. We would love to help write you a song or write one for you. At Mama Bear Leo and at Steve Cute Live on Twitter. All right, hold on. Let me. You guys have I love it when you recommend books. And I will put this up on my list. Give me a second so I can hit you up on there. Oh, and he did some digital artwork for you before, I think. Oh, shit. Keep fighting the good fight, brother. I believe that you are either pro-human rights or against human rights. And stand up for all rights, no in between or gray area on this. I agree completely. You're either one or the other. There's no in between, man. There's no in between. Thank you for that very much. And I will get in touch with you because we need some music for the countdown. We definitely do. And I appreciate that very much. You're very kind. And we got one over here from John Casey. Let me see if I can pull these up for you so you can read them with me. Just give me a second. Okay. I think you should be able to see that now. Wonderful. So, let me just scroll up over here because I lost my place. This is from John Casey. Says the American empire is imploding, Richie, and its abuse of migrant children should surprise no one. while Biden and Blinken also seek to murder Syrians with their Caesar sanctions. Yeah, as they steal the oil and burn crops in the fields to ensure Syrians cannot eat. Meanwhile, the United States continues to arm the Saudis and continues supporting the Saudi genocide of the Yemeni people. Again, I lost my place. Hold on, I should have turned off auto scroll. Sorry. Let me just go back over here. Yes, and meanwhile, the United States continues to arm the Saudis and continues supporting the Saudi genocide of the Yemeni people. Biden is staggering towards death of empire. Yeah, I mean, many people made that point before. I think it's a good one. I think it's there's a lot of truth to it. And you know, I mean, look at the UK empire, man. That it disappeared just like that, right? So yeah, anything is possible. And I think when Ben was on my show, Ben Norton, he also talked about how, you know, when an empire starts to crumble, it starts spending more money on the military. It starts desperately trying to keep its imperialist, shall we say, excursions even more intense, and it preoccupies itself even more with, you know, its activities overseas and upholding the empire, and then it internally just fucking crumbles, right? In every way, economically, society. So yeah, I definitely think that's the case. But you know, I just hope you know. He said they get more violent, and I think he's right. And it's heartbreaking thinking about what could happen. Someone commented earlier that, you know, as bad as Iraq was, don't think that worse can't happen. You know, something worse might always happen. I don't like to think about that, because it's a very terrifying prospect, unfortunately, right? But I just want to make sure that I read your tips over here on PayPal, because I think some of them are coming through. Again, my goddamn phone is playing games with me. Give me a second, please. You guys have been very kind to donate and support the show. Finally, I got one from Mona. Mona says, Richie, cheers to the motherfucking GOAT and the MVP. Thank you for digging through all of this crap and bringing attention to the things that need to be reported on. You're a real one, the best, and a Leo, and an amazing person and friend. Love you and keep up the great work. Thank you, Mona. Mona is so sweet. Seriously, thank you. It's Leo season, all day, every day. Everybody, y'all better recognize. So that's the best part. That's the best part. Thank you, Mona. You're too sweet. I really appreciate it. And of course, man, that's my job. It's to dig through the bullshit and and report to you guys. Marissa says, barely came in now, unfortunately, but thank you for doing the segment we discussed. I got you, girl. Don't worry. And it will be up, of course. I'll put it up separately, of course. And you don't need to thank me. I mean, I'm just, it's heartbreaking that, you know, seeing your hometown and not even just your hometown. I think anyone who empathizes with others, I mean, you see this happening. It's just heartbreaking, right? So of course I wanted to shed light on that, and you're more than welcome. Caden Rodriguez says, throw a Thin Lizzy poster up there, Richie. Man, I got a bunch of posters I've not put up yet, right? There's more you can't see. They're up there. You can't see them. As we had Dr. Dre, Breaking Bad. We got Linkin Park, Battlefield, and you know, there's a bunch of other video games and stuff. And I think the dumbest one that I got was the Chronic 2001. It's just black, and there's like fucking weed leaf in the corner. But yeah, it's a great album. It really is. That's kind of funny. There's some albums, they don't need artwork. They're fire. You put them in, it's just fire. That's great. So you guys are very sweet, and thank you so much for your tips, for your super chats, Eric. I appreciate it very much. And so yeah, guys. With that said, I'm just gonna plug the show. Do the big plug. That's what she said. So if you can, please donate on Venmo, on Cash App, or on PayPal. I depend on you guys to support independent media. We need you. And God damn it, my phone just shut off. But two of you have signed up on Rockfin. One of you signed up on Rockfin. One of you on Patreon. that is amazing. And you've also donated to the GoFundMe, so I will 100% oblige you with a crab dance in just a second. So if you guys want to support the show, you can do that on Patreon for $2 a month, $1, whatever is good for you, as much or as little as you'd like. And this is how you keep independent media growing. Although even better, and again, I don't say this just for me, I say this for everyone else. You're going to find some of your favorite channels on Rockfin, rockfin.com/RichardMedhurst. It's free. Just sign up for free, make an account for free. Just so that we have that alternative in case YouTube play any games, which they have done in the past. We got to decentralize. So make sure you make an account for free, and you'll find all the videos, the live stream, everything is up there at the same time. And there's no censorship. It's great. And if you do decide to subscribe, which is $10 a month, you get everyone's premium. Remember, it's Netflix for politics, basically. That's it. It's like YouTube and Patreon in one, but no bullshit. So there you go. And you'll be doing a great service. You'll be doing a great service to your country, literally, to the world. We need to move off of YouTube, honestly. I wish every single one of you would go and make an account there. I really do. So last but not least, make sure you get your merch, man. You can't look in the age of the Rainbow Coalition death cult. You got to look sharp. Okay. So I think I called the URL woke imperialism or something like that. So let me just pull it up for you, right? If you go to store.richardmedhurst.com, you will find the Death Cult t-shirt, okay? And the Rainbow Coalition Death Cult, remember, diversify. So make sure you get yours. I still have not gotten a hoodie, but I will soon. And of course, there's the Hillary Clinton chillin' and killin'. I mean, what's not to like here? What's not to like? Everything is. I mean, this is amazing work from Mona, right? She did a great job with this. So you got chillin' and killin' with Hillary. You can get it on a bag as well, right? Mona's a genius, honestly. But yeah, this is the one that has been selling like hotcake. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show, supporting the channel, and yeah, I'm really glad that Tammy Duckworth is making sure that the administration is as diverse as possible. Because basically she said she's not going to vote for any more of Biden's nominees unless, well, not unless, she was annoyed, she was angry, she was outraged that there are not enough, there's not enough Asian representation in the Biden administration, right? And so she wants more of that, and she's not going to vote for any more of Biden's nominees. And, well, all I can say is that I'm glad she takes the Rainbow Coalition death cult seriously. We need to diversify imperialism. Thank you. So, you know what's missing? All that's missing is they put like a Venezuelan or a Syrian in charge of the treasury and to oversee the sanctions, right? That's all that's missing. These motherfuckers. So anyway, store.richardmedhurst.com. You can get your merch there. And thank you for supporting the show. That's the plug. And that's basically it. And I'm definitely getting a new sound card. I am sick of this shit. This sound card, when you talk about sound cards, you talk about preamps and converters. I can't remember which is which. One is for hearing audio and the other one's for recording. I'm pretty sure the preamps are for listening and converters for recording. I hope I got that right. And it has great converters. So for recording guitar, vocals, it's great. The hardware is solid. The drivers are a fucking nightmare. I mean, you just saw me. The sound just goes out. I can't play any sound. Or the other day, the mic is not working. So, I think after 7 years, it's time to say goodbye, old friend. With that said, I bid you all farewell and a good night and good morning, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for supporting the show. Be safe, be good, take care, and ma'al salame.
Clap for that, you stupid bastard. And Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Listen, fuckhead, you have fucking crossed the line, claiming I'm the enemy. You got that, you goddamn son of a bitch?
I don't give a fuck what you think, bitch.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
Cut that bitch off.
Hey, why you texting? Why? You're getting nervous, man. Calm down. It's okay.
Suck my dick and choke on it. I yield my time. Fuck you.